Hello and welcome to Flingin Frisbees, a new Ultimate Frisbee talk show. My name is John, and today I'm here with Liv and Sylvia, two very experienced Ultimate players, to talk a little bit more about the sport. Um, hey guys, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into Frisbee?
Sure thing. So I started playing Frisbee in 2015. My high school gym teacher said that we had a local league and just told me to sign up. So I gave it a try. Stuck with it since then. I've played in college. I helped start the men and women's ultimate Frisbee teams here at UW Oshkosh. And now I just play in my free time.
Awesome. What about you, Sylvia?
I started playing frisbee in the fall of 2018 when I first came to UW Oshkosh for college, and I actually was on the team that Liv helped found, and I've been on that team now for 5 years. I love it, and it's great.
Awesome. And I play on the men's team here. I started last year, and I've been loving it ever since. It's a lot of fun. Okay, awesome. So we have a few different leagues that you can play in Ultimate Frisbee, like Liv mentioned. So what leagues are you guys currently involved in, and which ones would you like to play in the future?
Yeah, I can kick it off. I've played in local, college, and club levels. Um, I'm currently not playing club just because there isn't one in my immediate area. But you know what? If one happened to pop up in the Green Bay area, I'd love to continue to play.
Awesome. What about you, Sylvia?
I'm currently on the college women's ultimate frisbee team here at UWO. I'm not currently on a club team, but I'm very interested in recreation leagues or summer leagues that are coming up in the Fox Valley. So
Awesome. And then Liv, could you explain some of the more complex leagues that we have within like the tiered level throughout the country?
Yeah, for sure. So there's local leagues, which are slightly less organized than some of the other leagues you might see in the college or club level. It's usually organized by just one person or a group, but it's not really sanctioned or run by a governing body like USAU. Um, those usually go on for fall, summer, and winter. Um, Captains pick teams, and the teams compete over the course of a couple months. There's also college and high school leagues. I'll speak to college because I don't have experience in high school, but from what I understand, it's fairly similar. So they're similar to other sports in college in that there's D1 and D3 levels. There's men, which are categorized as open, as well as women's leagues in college. They're split into 10 different regions. Regular sanctioned seasons usually run from, I'd say, what, January to late May is nationals. So um, teams compete for sectionals, regionals, and nationals, but you have to attend a certain number of tournaments in order to contend with those competitions. And then at the end of each year, these teams are ranked on a national level. So there's a list of like hundreds of frisbee teams, and based off of how you play, your wins, your losses, your point differentials, you're ranked throughout the year. Um, then there's club level, which is similar to college in that there are rankings for teams, but as opposed to being connected with a school or a college, it's more so just a group of people that come together, create a sanctioned team, meet certain standards or requirements that are set forth by USAU, so roster numbers. Um, it could be, there are men's, women's, and mixed teams within a club level. So it might be a certain level of, okay, how many female matching players do you have? How many male matching players do you have? That could be a restriction as well to start up that team. Um, but similarly, again, you're competing for a national ranking. There are the sectionals, regionals, and national level competitions.
Awesome.
Lastly, yeah, we also have
Go ahead.
professional leagues. I don't know quite as much about those, but
Mhm.
it's more of like a minor league sports team. So teams from all around the USA compete against other teams, um, and it has observers, so that's a little bit different. It's just trying to speed up the play.
Yeah, I really like watching the AUDL streams. It's a lot of fun. They're very good. Most leagues are self-officiated. I believe even some of the top leagues are self-officiated. Sylvia, do you think you could explain what that means?
Absolutely. So our games are self-officiated, which means there aren't any referees or like officials as are common in most sports. And it's really tied to spirit of the game. Ultimate Frisbee is all about having spirit and loving what we do and being passionate about it, being honest. So basically, let's say there's a foul in the game, it is on you to say, hey, like, I think that was a foul. And then we just talk it out player to player. And genuinely, like, this really works. And it's a really nice way to connect with even other teams who may not be on your team. So anything that may happen throughout the course of the game, you can say, like, hey, like, I think that was a travel. Or, hey, I think that was a foul. And you just talk it out with the other person. Yeah, it's really about having good spirit and being a good athlete and a quality person, just talking it out and being honest. So, yeah, it's
Awesome.
a self-officiated game, for the most part.
Cool. And then Liv, what are some of the most important rules in Ultimate, just for beginners to know?
Yeah, to Sylvia's point, spirit of the game is huge in Ultimate, and it's something that really makes the sport stand out. Um, Knowing that each player has that integrity, it's not an official rule, but it's an expectation of the sport, and I think it goes a long way and really shows that the community can build a little bit stronger than some other sports might because you do have that dialogue within a game. Um, so, yeah, I would say it's also a rule you can't move with a disc. Yep, you've got 10 seconds to throw a disc once you have it. So the person guarding you will count stall for 10 seconds. If you don't get rid of it within that 10 seconds, then that's a turn. Um, each point begins with a pull. If you touch the pull when it's released and don't catch it, that is considered a turn. So that's a huge no-no as a first-year player. But um, there's also no contact in the sport, no intentional contact. Sometimes accidents do happen, but
Yeah, I've had a few points in which some of the person in front of me stopped really, really fast, and I just slammed into him, and it was really bad.
Mhm.
I don't recommend doing that. Um, in Frisbee, we have two main different types of throws, and the third kind of extra one that we tend to do. So what are those three?
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of different throws. Specifically, I think today we were going to discuss the hammer, the backhand, and the forehand. Um, I'll have Sylvia kick it off with explaining the first throw most players learn, which is that backhand.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the backhand, I do have a frisbee here. So when you throw the backhand, you want to grab the disc in between your thumb and your pointer finger, and you want to set the disc in there. And then you wrap your fingers down under the disc, under the lip of the disc. And there are a couple variations of where you can put your fingers under the disc. Some people put a finger out, some people put two. I just grab it just like this with your thumb on top. And as you saw, Heather, in that visual, you take a step, you keep one foot planted, and you take a step with your right foot, you cross across your body, and then when you release, it's really important that you flick your wrist, and you keep your wrist really tight, in a sense, and then you snap your wrist when you release the disc. So it's just a little bit about basic how you grab the disc, how you step over, and when you release, snap.
Perfect. And then Liv, do you think you could explain the forehand or the flick?
Is that you're going to use. I like to ask people if they can do the Spock and prosper. That's usually how you're. So keep your fingers separate. Keep your fingers separate, and then slide your um, disc in between the fingers there. Grip it like the little crab with your
Mm-hmm.
thumb on the ridges of the disc. If you get into that position, you'll flatten your disc holding, and it's similar to a movement in tennis, the forehand hitting it that way, that motion, but you'll stop your hand at about a little past your torso and use that wrist action to move the disc forward.
Awesome. I primarily use the flick because when somebody in Frisbee is guarding you, they're usually like right here, so you have to go this way in order to keep them from getting in your way. However, sometimes they're very good at guarding you and you can't quite get around them. So usually tall players like to go over top and they use the hammer throw. I've never actually been able to use a hammer throw in a game because all the guys guarding me are usually taller than I am. Liv, do you think you could explain how you use that?
Yeah, for sure. So you're going to have a similar grip as you would with the flick, but with a hammer, you're throwing over the top of your body. So you'll usually want to have it a little bit flatter. It's an upside down throw, so you'll release at the top of your head, throwing it similarly to you would throw a baseball. Um, your leg will sort of pop up like you're throwing a ball, but again with that disc.
Perfect. Yeah, like I said, it's very difficult to use. I've seen some incredible hammers that are just on point, but like 90% of the
Hmm.
time they just go woo off into nowhere. Um, Freshmen really like to use that one a lot.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
they're big fans of that one because it's pretty easy. Within Frisbee, we've got some really cool stuff we can do. Um, Obviously, one of the coolest things you can do is laying out, which is incredibly difficult. I've never been able to do it in a game. Uh, so um, let's look at some laying out. So how do you do it? Do you guys tend to do it during a game? Um, yeah, perfect. Laying out, basically just lay out onto your front. It's very difficult to do. There's only like two guys on the men's team that are actually willing to commit to them because you usually end up with turf burn up, all up and down. Uh, but it's really cool if you're just out of reach. It's a great way to go for the frisbee. Do you guys usually use them while you're playing?
Um,
I think. Oh, sorry. I
no, go
think
for it.
of laying out as high risk, high reward, honestly, because it is a bit of a risk to just like lay out, throw your body out there, and just like really try to catch this disc. But when it does work, the reward is really great. It's a big reward because it looks really cool, and you're reaching a disc that people might not think possible to reach. Personally, I don't normally use a layout in a game. I feel like as a handler, one of the positions, it doesn't quite happen as much as it is people who are cutters who are down catching the disc more often. So I
Hmm.
don't personally, but it's cool when it works.
Yeah,
Agreed with
it's really
Sylvia
difficult.
there. There isn't as much laying out with handlers because the whole goal is to have your other handler catch it easily. But cutters do tend to do it more often. I think there's a definitely a time and a place for laying out. It's great for defensive and offensive moves if you're trying to block a disc, if you're trying to reach a disc that's been pushed too far by the wind. But I've also seen a lot of people get hurt from layouts, which is why it's good that you guys are conservative with them. Especially those gratuitous layouts that aren't really necessary.
Hmm.
I've seen concussions. I've seen people pop their shoulder out of place and have to get it popped back in on the
Yeah,
sideline. So I'd say learning proper form is super important. Um, and always be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the condition of the field before you're going to lay out because you might not realize the ground's frozen, it's hard, it's going to hurt you more. If you're laying out the wrong angle, you might hurt yourself in a way that you wouldn't realize. And of course, always pay attention to your opponents so you're not colliding with someone else.
yeah. That's especially important. Make sure you always got to make sure you land flat on your front, otherwise any twisting it's no good. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. Um, we really enjoyed having you. You guys have played a lot of Frisbee and you're very knowledgeable on the topic. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everybody for watching Flingin Frisbees.